After 10 days of intense fighting in Sudan, the two warring factions have agreed to a 72-hour truce that began from midnight of April 24th. This is the third ceasefire that has been agreed upon. The earlier ones had failed to materialize due to one factor or the another. The Sudan Armed Forces said that the US and Saudi Arabia mediated the truce. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the 72-hour pause in fighting had been agreed between the army and the RSF after 48 hours of intense negotiations. He said the US would coordinate with regional, international and Sudanese civilian interests to create a committee that would oversee work on a permanent ceasefire and humanitarian arrangements. The RSF confirmed in Khartoum that it had agreed to the ceasefire starting at midnight to facilitate humanitarian efforts. Hours before Blinken's announcement, the UN Secretary General Antony had warned that the fighting could engulf the whole region and beyond. The two sides have not abided by several previous temporary truce deals, but this time both parties have independently confirmed their commitment to stand by their side of the ceasefire. So far, over 400 have been killed and over 3,500 have been injured after the fighting started on April 15th. Nations whose civilians have been trapped in the internal fighting between the Sudanese army and the RSF are already scrambling to get their nationals out of the war-torn country. More than 4,000 people have been evacuated in foreign organized evacuations that began on Saturday. The United States and multiple European, Middle Eastern, African and Asian nations launched emergency missions to bring to safety their embassy staff and Sudan-based citizens by road, air and sea. The conditions for civilians are getting worse with each passing day, and the aid agencies have warned that civilians trapped by the sudden outbreak of fighting are desperately short of food, water and medicine. The UN Security Council is expected to hold a meeting on the situation in Sudan any time today. If both rival parties indeed keep up their end of the bargain, the civilians might see a respite in the fighting and get a much needed breather from the conflict that is threatening to plunge the nation deep into a civil war.
Subscribe to Oneindia channel and never miss an update.